Hello and welcome to my review of the Space Marine Mastodon super heavy transport tank. It is absolutely huge. It's much bigger than I could possibly imagine. This is the first time I've seen it in the flesh, fully built. Pictures just don't do it justice, in my opinion. I'm going to show you some size comparisons, of course. Oh wow, it is such a lovely model. I originally thought when they announced this that this was going to be £250 or something like that. It ended up being £300, which is a lot of money. It's a heck of a lot of money, but it's still cheaper than a Warhound Titan if you want to go down that route. If you want to just have all Space Marines, this is the biggest super heavy that you can get for them. That's just Space Marines. I mean, this model is absolutely, it's incredible. I think I've counted that I've got about 20 magnets on this beast. I think it's worth the money. If you play a lot of games, you might think there are other things out there that are better, such as 2 Spartan assault tanks. That's fine. You know, 2 Spartan assault tanks, probably a little bit cheaper points wise than one of these. But this has the void shields. This is a super heavy tank, so it can fire at lots of different targets. It can carry 40 as opposed to the 25. And, you know, a lucky las cannon shot or grav weapons, they're not really going to damage it as much as a Spartan. But that's okay. I've got 2 Spartan tanks, so for me it's not really an issue. You know, I've said many times I don't play many games, so let's just talk about the features of this beast of a tank. Start off with, you've got this Sky Reaper battery. It fully rotates 360 degrees. The barrels were a bit funny to sort of bend and melt into place. It is magnetised with quite a sturdy magnet, just in case they release any extras like a ROX upgrade, command unit upgrade, something like that, or a different top cannon. But I'll be talking about the rules a little bit later on in the review. But that's your first lot of magnets, I suppose. And that just slots on there. I wanted to magnetise it because I wanted to keep it on there, but also provide a little bit of friction while turning, and also transport wise it's better to have all your options, you know, removable. The void shields, of course, they are magnetised and removable, just with these tiny little magnets. They're quite strong for the size though, and I just let go of it and it pops into place. All of the 4 side sponson weapons, you can position them up and down and side to side, and of course they're magnetised too, so you can just take them off for transport, or even put different weapons on if ever they change the rules or whatever. But it's completely up to you. You can glue all the weapons in place because it's got no options in the war gear for different weapons. So, but I just like to magnetise them, like I say, for transport, but also even if you follow the instructions and glue them precisely, the weight of the weapons will always sort of be loose and drop. And to me, that when you got weapons that are pointing on the ground and you put them like that and then they drop again, it just gets so frustrating. So when you magnetise them, you can position them and they'll just stay. Same for the heavy flamer sponsons, they move and they're detachable. So that's all of the magnetisation that end. The siege melter array, which is the front melter weapon, that's not magnetised, but that just moves freely within its little turret. It hasn't got much of a firing arc, which is a bit of a shame, but you know, it's well armoured. It's got plenty of protection. One of its main features is a thing that was a pain for me. Well, when I say a pain, I think this model is a difficult model. I think it's up there with a Warhound Titan or something like that in terms of difficulty. I'd probably give it an 8 out of 10 or 9 out of 10. And one of the most difficult parts are the front doors. If you look at the video footage I watched earlier today of even Forge World's own Mastodon, even they didn't get the doors exactly right. This front bit it to me looks like it's a little bit too high. The doors, there's a bit of a gap in them. These I've worked quite a few hours on getting them precise. You have to sort of work on the middle area of the tank before you work on the sides. But I've spent a long time on these doors, and they're flush and they open, and that's about as far as I want them to open. They're on these pistons, and I'll take the top off in a moment and show you, but just there and just inside they are magnetised too, so they'll just slot in, go flush, and there you go. A big tip that I can give you if you think about getting one is get yourself a hairdryer. Don't worry about a heat gun or anything like that. Just get a hairdryer and put it on the highest heat setting on a low fan speed, and you can mould the doors. Don't go too crazy though, because you can end up overheating the hinges, which will bend them, and then they're very tricky to get straight again. So just heat what you need to heat, and that goes for the same for the hull. There might be huge gaps, there might be bends, the top might not fit, the top might not be level. You're going to get these sort of oddities in a model this big in the moulding process. So that's my big tip. Get your hairdryer on hand. We'll just have a look at this side, and then we just have a look at the back. Now on the back, that's open a little bit. I can remedy that by lifting up the top slightly and putting it on and pulling it back just a tiny bit if I really want to, so that it's then flush. Just the way the model is, that will leave a bit of a gap, just because for some reason they've made it so that it's just slightly, longer, and that's just the way it is. But if you push it forward, drop this down a little bit, then it'll fit perfectly fine. And what I've also done with the rear door is I've magnetised there and I've magnetised there. I don't really think that gets in the way at all of feet, and it just looks like quite a nice little feature, in my opinion. So it goes on like that, and then it'll just clip into place, and the magnet will hold it shut. With this model, I didn't want to glue everything. I wanted many parts of it magnetised so that I could open the door, so that I could have it as a destroyed bunker, a usable bunker if it was destroyed. And I also wanted to make sure that I painted the interior. It's going to be difficult because I've glued most of it, but I think I can still achieve that. With my model, you can also lift off the top. No need for magnetisation because it's very heavy, this piece, in the unboxing, very, very heavy. There's gaps there that I may well fill. There was a big hole in the back there as well, which I'm going to fill with green stuff. I didn't want too much green stuff in this review though. Obviously they're going to be the lights there. But that's basically the second floor. It's got 2 stories, this tank. It's absolutely huge. So we'll put that there, and then also you can take off this front section too. So the command deck and then the front turret melter area. Now, I don't know if you can see, but we'll just zoom in slightly. Probably best if I show you that way. So you've got the 3 compartments. You've got this, this and this, with the rear being the largest area, and so on. I mean, the middle part is probably the shortest, and then you've got this front area too. You can see all the pistons and things in there, and when I open, you get some kind of idea of how the mechanism works. It's really, really nice mechanism, the way they put these resin pistons in place, and like I say, it works really well. And when the top is on, obviously they magnetise. But you could just have it as an abandoned structure with the back door and these front doors open, solid, just destroyed if you wish to. I'll just zoom out a little bit and put it together. This supposedly fits 40. I think you could probably fit maybe 10 or 15 models in there, maybe if you laid them down. But remember, it's got a second level as well, so I think it's possible that you could fit 40. I would have liked them to be more fluffy with this, in the sense that you drive one of these up to a bunker or fortification, you burn a hole through it, you open these front doors, you wait for the second one to come up behind it, you slam that down, I'd like to have it to be more fluffy in the sense that the front could sort of lock onto the rear of the back of one of these and create like a, you know, complete tunnel system. But I very much doubt I'll get a second one. One's definitely enough for me, and it's such a amazing centerpiece for the Legion army. I'll show you the spare parts and then we'll look at size comparisons. Spare parts, you don't get many at all. This is just left over from one of the guys that you could put in the hatch. I think he'd go in that top hatch there. It's just straightforward standard Mark IV armour. This little hatch here, or step, goes onto the bottom one inside, and then you can put one of the Space Marines, which I'm about to show you, standing up, peering out with some binoculars or a monocular, whatever you want to call it. So they're the spare parts, and this is the guy. What I've actually done, although he's leaning forward doing a bit of a smooth criminal, and he's pointing at what he's obviously looking at, I think I'm just going to have him as a spare character, maybe to go with this tank set, or maybe to just go in a normal army. But if you noticed, he's not very well armed at all, so I might just have to put a bolt gun somewhere on him, but I haven't quite decided. But it's cool that you get one of these in there. I'm a big fan of that. If I'd love it if Forge World started just bundling one or two normal Space Marines in with their really massive kits. I mean, it's only going to cost them, what, four to £6 to do that. That'd be pretty cool if they did that, but there we go. So I've just sort of like got this guy here. As you can see, size wise, absolutely humongous, and you know a Space Marine is 2 meters tall, so we're probably looking at 3, almost 4 just for that area. God knows how much for that height. I mean, it's just huge compared to the little Space Marine here. Absolutely huge. What we're going to do now is we're just going to compare it to a Space Marine Spartan, of which I have one on me. Just pull it out of my pocket. There you go. That's the size of the Spartan. I've now magnetised the door, which I didn't in the review. I'm yet to spray it and things, but that just slots on quite well. As you can see, I mean, it completely dwarfs the Spartan. It's just huge. It's so difficult to sort of get a good size comparison. What I'll do is I'll go a bit free cam and give you a bird's eye view. There we are. I don't know if that sort of helps, but it completely dwarfs it. And here it is next to a Fellblade tank, which is another super heavy tank, but it's more of a Lord of War that can dish out a lot of damage to an enemy force. Doesn't have any void shields though to protect it. As you can see, the Mastodon is a little bit longer, certainly a lot taller. It's got so much more presence on here, and it's just a tiny bit wider too. But this is what you're getting for your extra £130. You know, you're getting these incredible doors, you're getting a fully detailed interior, you're getting the ability to transport 40 Space Marines or even Dreadnoughts. You know, you put a couple of Dreadnoughts in this, and like I said, that could be a very nasty surprise. I don't know how they're going to get out. Probably like wheeled out or something, but still, that's what you can do. Obviously, I'm just comparing this sort of like size-wise, because everybody sort of knows how massive a Fellblade is, but this tank really does sort of go one step further in sort of size-wise, and it weighs an absolute, it weighs so much. I'm only comparing them size-wise rather than sort of usefulness. They're both Lord of Wars, obviously, but I just thought that would be a decent comparison between them. And then finally, what I'm going to do is show you it next to a Warhound Titan. I don't know if you can see that very well, but it certainly the bulk of it and how much resin there is and the width of it almost dwarfs the Warhound Titan. The Warhound Titan's very sort of thin. It's not much taller at all. Really, it could bend down slightly and offer the Space Marine a bit of a lift on the carapace if it wanted. But there you go. I mean, you know, resin wise, you're probably getting more resin with the Mastodon, but that's just sort of like a comparison there between the two, that it's very, very huge compared to even just your smallest Titan. It's definitely sort of longer than one of those, but obviously not taller. So there you are. That is the end of my Space Marine Mastodon review. So what I'll do now in this video, it's been a very long video, but I hope it's been worthwhile and useful. I will now talk about its rules. So one of these will cost you 700 points. You can have it as a super heavy command tank. You can have hunter killer missiles. You can have 4. Don't know where you're going to put them, but you can have 4 at 5 points each. And you can have a command Vox relay. So it's good for rolling your reserves, things like that. It's a super heavy tank. It's an assault vehicle. It's got enhanced defensive fire, a reinforced shell, and 2 void shields. Ballistic skill 4, its armour all round is 14, and it has 10 hull points. It's got 1 fixed forward siege melter array, 2 sponson mounted heavy flamers, 2 sponson mounted las cannons, 1 turret mounted Sky Reaper battery, smoke launchers, searchlight, and armoured ceramite. It can carry 40 models. It can also carry 2 Dreadnoughts or Contemptor Dreadnoughts, each Dreadnought counting as 10 models. So in theory you can have 2 Contemptors in there and 20 normal Space Marines, or a good selection of Terminators, 10 Terminators maybe. Notice that you can't carry Leviathan Dreadnoughts or Anvilus Dreadnoughts. It's just either the Contemptor Vanilla or the normal Dreadnoughts. It's got 2 access points, 1 at the front and 1 at the rear. So none at the sides at all. You can't pop out and fire out of those hatches. It's got this thing called enhanced defensive fire, which means that if you've only got 1 unit in there, it can overwatch with its sponson mounted weapons. Each sponson can be fired once per assault phase at the assaulting unit. The las cannon, the fire is carried out at ballistic skill 2, and the heavy flamers, it's a D3 plus 1 automatic hits per heavy flamer on the unit that it's fired on. It's got this reinforced shell. Basically, if it's destroyed, you reduce the roll on the catastrophic damage by -2. If it's a 0 or -1 after the modifier, then it doesn't explode, but just becomes a broken shell. Any models suffer strength 4 hit, and then from then on the shell's treated as a ruin rather than a vehicle wreck, and the 2 doorways count as open access points to the interior. Command Vox relay, as I said before, you add +1, 2, or subtract -1 from the results of any reserve rolls you make while the Mastodon is in place. If enemy models suffer a deep strike mishap, the roll suffers a -1 modifier. So the Command Vox relay is quite a useful, nasty little thing to have on it too. It's got the 2 void shields, which I've said in the review today as well. The void shield generator works just like that. It's an armor value of 12. An enemy has to hit it and obviously either get a glance or penetrating hit on the void shield before it can have a go at the armor. And for every collapsed void shield at the end of the controlling player's turn, 5+ instantly restores it. Its weapons, the siege melter array, is a 12-inch strength 9 AP1 heavy 4 3-inch blast. So you get 3 of those. You get 4 of those 3-inch blasts. Strength 9 AP1. Yeah, its range is only 12 inches, and it's also got this stone burner rule. Any penetrating hits against fortifications and buildings becomes D3 penetrating hits. And then the Sky Reaper battery, it's a range 48, strength 7, AP4, heavy 5-shot, Skyfire, twin-linked and interceptor. So that's going to be very, very useful at taking any sort of flyers that people bring and just knocking them down. So rules-wise, it's a very, very sort of hard to kill unit. It's got the void shields, it's got the armour, it's got a lot of multi-purpose weapons. It's going to be hard to assault as well, and also you might have 2 Contemptor Dreadnoughts in there. It's a very multi-purpose vehicle. It's not aimed at one specific target. It's not an anti-tank super heavy. It's not an anti-infantry. You can also have the 40 normal Space Marines in there if you don't want to go to the Dreadnought route. You roll this on a table and you're going to just be picking up objective point after objective point. Nothing's really going to stand up against this. It can just take so much punishment. yeah, it can't deal out that much punishment. It's only got the 2 las cannons and very short range melter weapon, but at least anti-air, it can deal it, and it can just take so much punishment and just deliver its prime contents inside. And it's getting dark already, so I'll end the review here. If you have enjoyed this video, if you want to see more videos of the Mastodon, thumbs up this video, and I'm happy to do more different size comparisons, trying to fit more troops into it. You name it, I'll try and do some more content, because I really like this model. As I said when I unboxed it, and definitely one of my favourites. Something about it just clicked for me. And that is the end of my review of this lovely tank. Thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.